Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video I'm going to be running through a few pre-MOT checks. I've got to take the van for its MOT this afternoon, so I've got a bit of time this morning to make this video and run through all the checks. I've got this check sheet off the government website. I'll put a link to this in the description below, so you can print this off yourself when you carry out the checks. It's a very handy reference tool. It's also a good idea to go on the government website, put in your registration number and have a look at any advisories that you may have had in your previous MOT. So I had shock absorbers, light misting of oil, or has a limited damping effect near side front. So I've checked both the shock absorbers and they look absolutely fine. I've wiped off any oil residue around them so they look nice and clean. Wheel bearing has slight play offside front. These are tapered roller bearings, so I've tightened them up, and there's a tiny bit of play, but you want a little bit of play in tapered roller bearings. It's just the way they're set up. Tyre slightly damaged, cracking or perished on both the fronts, so I've had new tyres on the front, so fingers crossed. I've done lots of welding as well. They won't find anything major, but it's always good to just run through the basic checks. So this check sheet's broken up into 4 sections: interior checks, exterior checks, under bonnet checks and under vehicle checks. And there's a section at the bottom here for emissions and braking, but we can't really look at that, we haven't got the right equipment, so we can do our best. Right, so starting with the interior checks, we've got seats and seat belts. We want to make sure that both the seat belts plug in and they're secure in all 3 points. You've got no fraying or tears on the seat belts themselves, and they just look in good condition. I tend to leave mine plugged in for the MOT tester just so he knows that I've checked them. For the seat checks, you just want to make sure you've got all the bolts in, the seats are nice and secure, and that the adjustments work. So the next check is for warning lamps. So start the engine and make sure all the warning lights go out. Switches, make sure all the switches work correctly, so indicator switches, full beams, side lights, headlights, hazard lights. Just make sure all the switches work, which they do. View to front, wipers and washers. Are there any obstructions blocking the driver's view of the road, such as air fresheners in the way, cracks in the windscreen? Do the wipers work and clear the screen properly? Do the washers work? Yep, that all works. Lovely. Doors, mirrors and horn. So make sure all the doors closed, they're nice and secure. Check the mirrors, make sure you haven't got any cracks in them, and the horn. And the last check they want for interior checks is the Speedo Controls. Make sure that your Speedo works for Class 5 vehicles. It's also got a tacho, so if you want to know how to install one of those, there's a video for that. So for the number plate, it needs to be nice and clear, Charles Wright font, standard letter sizes, white number plate on the front, yellow on the back. Those for LED ones. Side lights. Wheels and tyres. I've had new tyres on this not that long ago, so you just want to feel for the wear marking. Make sure you've got plenty of tread on the tyres. Make sure you've got all your wheel nuts on. Check the rubber on the wiper blades, and it needs to be in good condition, no cracks. And they need to effectively clear the windscreen, which they do. Another check is on the fuel cap. So that's the original, nice and secure. But if you've just got an insert in there, I think that's a fail. The final exterior check is of the general condition of the van, the condition of the body, making sure that you haven't got any sharp bits of bodywork anywhere, you haven't got any massive rust holes here, there and everywhere. Let's move on to under bonnet checks. So for the under bonnet checks, it's quite straightforward really. You just want to make sure that all your fluids are topped up. Your brake fluid, your coolant, your power steering fluid and your washer fluid, and also you just want to check your engine oil. All the oil's at the front of the sump at the moment, so it's reading a bit low, but once it's on a level ground it should be alright. Right, so what other checks have we got? We've got the vehicle structure. I'd also class this as an under bonnet check, just checking around the strut mounts here, because usually these are located underneath the bonnet on a car, so you just want to make sure you haven't got any holes or rusting around the suspension components. This is all lovely. So the exhaust system, the fuel system, the steering and power steering components, and the suspension components. So it's just a general look over. We haven't got any leaks, power steering leaks. There aren't any coolant leaks, it's holding coolant nicely. You want to make sure the batteries are nice and secure, all the connections are good. Just check the general condition and make sure it all looks nice and tidy, which it does. I'm happy with that. Okay, that'll do. I'm going to give the wheel a spin. Just listen for any nasty bearing noises. Can't hear anything, sounds lovely. And then I'm going to feel for any play in the bearings. There's a tiny bit of play there, but that's normal for a tapered roller bearing. You want a little bit of play. Maybe it's a little bit excessive, but it's better to be a little bit loose than too tight. I've got a bit of a hole up here on the inner wheel arch, so hopefully he doesn't catch me out on that, and he doesn't want me to weld it up today. But if we have to, we have to. It's one of those things. I know as soon as I start trying to cut this hole out, the hole will just grow and then I won't have a van left. Shock absorbers, checking for any oil around here, nice and dry. I cleaned these off a while back. Make sure the rubber hasn't perished around the prop shaft centre bearings. If they have, I've got a video for replacing these. That's all good. Check the exhaust system is supported and all the brackets are in place. Look for any holes or bits hanging off of the exhaust system. Let's have a look at the suspension components, check the springs, make sure you haven't got any broken springs. They're a bit rusty, but other than that they look alright. Check the brake lines on the back of the calipers, make sure they're not leaking or perished. These are fairly new. Have a look at the ball joints. Do the same on the other side. I still need to paint all this up. You want to check the general condition of all your seals. You know, you want to make sure they're all solid and you haven't got any holes in them. The same with the chassis, you want to check all the box section, make sure there's no holes. Check the leaf springs, make sure none of those are broken. Check your brake pipes. I need to protect these with a bit of grease actually at some point. Make sure you haven't got any leaks from the fuel tank, because that could be a danger to other road users. When I bought the van, it had had all new front discs and pads, rear brake shoes, all new brake lines throughout, so hopefully the braking system's still in good condition. I've given it the once over and it all looks absolutely fine, so that shouldn't be a problem. I think we've done all the checks we can, we just got to keep our fingers crossed and hope that it passes. The moment of truth. Hello?
Hi, it's Will Carl.
Oh hiya, how's it going?
Oh yeah, not so bad. Right, it's all been MOT'd. It has failed on a couple of bits, nothing too drastic hopefully. So it's basically headlights on that. Near side has got no dip till main beam. And then the main beam telltale light is just on all the time on the
Oh, okay. I checked it earlier and it was fine.
Okay, yeah, the near side has got no dipped or main beam at all.
Okay, that's interesting.
So then you've got a main beam Telltale light on the dashboard there as well.
Alright, no worries, I'll come and have a look. Cheers. That's interesting because we checked it earlier and it was absolutely fine, so let's go and have a look and see if we can get it working while we're there, and then fingers crossed they'll just put it through. Right, so we had a fail. The main beam Telltale not working, it does not extinguish, so I had the blue full beam light on the dashboard constantly. The headlamp wasn't working on the near side, on the dip beam and on the main beam. I went onto the bonnet, had a look, and it looked like a slightly loose connection. I gave it a little bit of a wiggle in the back of the headlight. Lo and behold, it started working again. So I took it back to them straight away and they passed it there and then for me with 3 advisories. And the advisories were the suspension arm, ball joint has slight play in the offside front lower, and the coil springs corroded on the front. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you found it somewhat useful and enjoyed watching it. If you did, please consider subscribing to my YouTube channel, and hopefully I'll see you next time.